I'm Mark Garrison, author of Guts N Gunships, and the story you're about to hear about a pilot by the name of Jack Hawkins is something that happened March 30th, 1969, a day that I'll never, ever forget. It was so intense and violent and crazy. The mission was to get about 120, 130 guys off a fire base in the jungle in Vietnam when it was almost impossible to do so. They had 1,000 or 2,000 enemy troops surrounding the base. All the aircraft going in to try to get them were receiving heavy fire, and several got shot down. And because of guys like Jack Hawkins, who actually volunteered to fly back and get 4 guys that were accidentally left at the LZ under heavy fire, and he got them out. And they all got grandkids on their knees today because of him. I'm proud to call Jack a friend, a good friend. It's been an honor to know him.
Gotcha.
When we extracted, it was on March the 30th, Task Force Alpha. It was a company-wide extraction. And a good friend of mine, we had a really good platoon leader. His name was Bob Nelius. I'm not going to tell you what his nickname was. You can ask your.
It's in the combat audio.
Yeah, you can ask his dad. Ask your dad what his nickname was. But Bob was a great platoon leader. I think he wound up flying over 1,400 hours in Vietnam. And I know the company commander told him one time, you need to stay back at the hooch, and there's some OERs and stuff. And he said, sir, my job is out with the guys. He said, that's where I'm going to be.
Awesome.
And he was. And then another really good guy who was ex-Special Forces, he was down at a place in Duco. His name was Jim Hudkins. We called him Hud. Boy, he was good. And of course, he knew what it was like to be on the ground. And he was in Special Forces, and he got wounded. And it would probably be in '63 or so. It was early on, before they had much helicopter support. And the day that we extracted company-wide, HUD and I, there were several of us had been in 3 times. And so we were taking them back to Polyclane, and by that time, your dad, he'd gotten shot up. That was one of the guns that got shot up really bad. There was a pair of Cougar Charlie models that came out of the 57th. One of them got his windscreen shot out. One guy was Wendy. He was in the first flight. He took a 50 cal round through his transmission and got a transmission line or something or other. He lost his transmission oil pressure, which it's not going to run long without oil. And I chased him, but he managed to land, to get it to Firebase 29. And then Nelius, he got shot up, and he had to take his aircraft back. And I think we had 9 aircraft that got shot up or that took hits that day. So we came back to Polyclane, and the ones that were left, we had to refuel. And so we took off, and there was probably about 4 or 5 of us that we took off. We still had, I know, one Croc gun, and he may have teamed up with the other Cougar, but that was, his name was Waldo.
Oh, yeah.
Waldo was good too. And so we took off, and HUD said, well, there's nine left. He said, I'll go pick up 5, who'll go and pick up the last 4. And man, I did not want to have to go back in there, but I said, I'll go and get them. Well, I have a hard time. Give me just a second here.
Sure, absolutely. Take your time.
Hud went and got the 5, and he got shot up pretty bad. And I was getting ready to go in, and I said 3 things: a Lord's Prayer, 23rd Psalms, and the affirmation of faith. I did not see any way I was going to get in and get out. I believe in guardian angels, and I could tell you several stories on that, and I believe in miracles. Well, at that time, 2 calf cobras showed up. They both had full rocket pods. That's 96 rockets between them. And they said, y'all need some help? And yes, sir, we sure would appreciate it. And I went in, I made it in, got the other 4, and got out, and I took 1 round. I think the miracle was that the bad guys knew that it was getting low, and when they saw the cobras had a lot more firepower than that. At 96 rockets, they could have really peppered around that. And I would say that was a miracle. I met with one of the last guys out. His name was Homer Steadley. He was a lieutenant, and he had a medic and a RTO and one of his platoon sergeants. And those 9, the 5 that HUD picked up and the 4 that we picked up, the colonel had told him that the helicopters aren't going to go in. It's you guys are going to have to E&E, and that was like a death sentence to him. Well, later on, I met with Homer, and he said, that bunker where we had landed was filled with mortar rounds, claymores, all their ammunition and everything. And Homer said, did you know that we had already set fuses in there to blow that stuff up? And it's right there. And I said, no, I didn't, but if I had of, you'd still had to walk. You would have had to walk out. But he said, yeah, I loaded that thing with all kinds of fuses to blow it up. He said they weren't going to find them all. And I guess after we pulled out that it did.